everybody. Hello, Aspire Riders. So today we're diving into the fascinating world of descriptive paragraphs. And I'm going to share some valuable tips which help you craft vivid and engaging descriptions. So if you are ready, let's get started. A descriptive paragraph. So when writing a descriptive paragraph, there are 4 main tips which should be taken into account. One of the first of them can be to provide some information. So, as a starting point, when describing, introduce your subject by giving some key details such as name. For example, my best friend's name is Ahmed. Then after the first one, we've got here age. Take it for example. So we could say here, he is 29 years old. After age, we've got job. Also, we need, of course, to mention our jobs here when we want, of course, to give you information. For example, we could say here, he is a teacher. Then after job, we've got, of course, the language. We need, of course, to mention the language they speak. For example, we could say here, he speaks Arabic, French, and English very well. Now, let's talk about here, moving on, of course, to the physical aspects. So here, when describing someone, we need, of course, to mention here his or their appearance, and also their personality. Now, when describing a person, consider, of course, here their appearance. What should we consider here? So the first one here, we should consider height. Then, of course, build. And after build, we need, of course, to consider age. Then, of course, eyes. And after eyes, we've got, of course, hair. Then after hair, we need, of course, to talk about, of course, here, clothes. Now, take it for example. Let's get started with the first one. So here, if you want, of course, to talk about height, so you need, of course, to mention here, could say, of course, they're short. And after that, we've got here, we need to, of course, to say here they're of medium height. And after medium height here, we could say here, they're tall. Then, take it for example here, full build. So, for example, we could say here, they're slim or thin. And we could say here, they're fat. After that, we could say here, they're well built. After, of course, build, we need, of course, to mention or to talk about their age. Take it for example. So we could say here, they're young, or maybe middle-aged, they're middle-aged, and also we could say here, they're elderly. So elderly means, of course, could say they're elderly, or we could also say here, they're old. So after that, let's talk about someone's eyes. So what do we need here? So we could say here, they've got, of course, small or big eyes. Or we could also say here, also we need, of course, to talk about the color, of course, their eyes colors. So we could say here, they're blue or brown. And after that, we need, of course, to say the shape of, or to mention, of course, the shape of their eyes. So for example, here we could say here, they have got, of course, narrow eyes or round eyes. So narrow eyes, of course, the same like, of course, Chinese people. So, of course, Chinese people, they've got here narrow eyes. After, of course, eyes, we've got here hair. Hair, for example, the shape. So the first one here, we could say straight hair. So someone has straight hair. Or we could also say here curly hair. Maybe we've got here wavy hair, and we've got spiky hair too. Then after that, of course, we could say here someone is bald. So someone is bald means, of course, here when someone has no hair. Now, let's talk about someone's clothes. So what do you say here? So we could say here casual. So casual, which means here when we say someone's dress casual clothes, this means that, of course, they have, of course, here informal clothes. Informal clothes, for example, we could say here someone's like jeans, t-shirts, and trainers. That's what I mean by here, of course, casual clothes. And we've got here shabby. Shabby, when we say shabby clothes, so of course here shabby, which means, of course, dirty clothes. Dirty clothes. Then, of course, we've got smart clothes, which means, of course, formal clothes that we have, of course, to wear in, of course, formal occasion or special occasion. Then, of course, here we've got messy clothes. It's the same like, of course, shabby ones, but of course, messy, which means, of course, dirty and untidy clothes. Now, let's talk about moving on, or let's delve into, of course, someone's personality. So here we need, of course, if you want to speak about someone's personality, we need, of course, here to talk about, of course, their ability, and also we need, of course, to talk about their attitudes. Now let's have a look at the first one, ability. So ability here, if you want, of course, to describe someone's ability, so we could say here, we could say he is intelligent, or we could also say here they're gifted, or maybe brainy, or maybe clever. So gifted, which means, of course, here someone's has, of course, a gift, or maybe, of course, talent. Then brainy, it's the same like, of course, here clever. Or clever means intelligent. Then, of course, the last one here, the word that you need, of course, to use when you want, of course, to describe someone's ability can be talented. Talented, of course, they have the same meaning of course, gifted. Now, let's have a look at attitudes. So attitudes, if you want, of course, to describe someone's attitude, so we could say here, he is optimistic. Optimistic means, so this word, of course, it's used when you want, of course, to describe someone who believes that, of course, good things will happen in the future. And pessimistic, it's, of course, the opposite of optimistic, so which means, of course, it's used to describe someone who thinks that, of course, bad things are more likely, of course, to happen. Then, of course, we've got relaxed. Relaxed means feeling happy and comfortable. Then, of course, we've got here, another word we've got here is sociable. Of course, here this word is used to describe someone who likes, of course, meeting and spending time with other people. So when you want, of course, to describe someone who, of course, like meeting or spending time with other people, so we could say here sociable. They're sociable. Then we've got here reliable. So reliable, of course, this word or this expression, of course, it's used to describe someone who can be trusted. So the one who can be trusted, so it's described, of course, as we could describe him as, of course, reliable. Now, moving on to the third tips that we need, of course, to mention when you want, of course, to write a descriptive paragraph, which is, of course, to do with interest. So interest here, for example, if you want to talk about someone's interest. So we could say here, the most or the common expressions we need, of course, to use here can be to be interested in. For example, we could say here, Ahmed is very interested in learning languages. Then the last point here is to talk about, of course, hobbies. So when you want, of course, when writing a descriptive paragraph, you need, of course, here also to mention someone's hobbies. So let's have a look at what should we say here if you want to write something about this point. So, for example, we could say here the common expressions we need, of course, to use here when you want, of course, to talk about someone's hobbies. So we could say here to be keen on, for example. Another one here, to be fond of. To be fond of something. Maybe you could say here to like or love. I like or I love. For example, Ahmed is keen on reading books and playing sports. Or maybe you could say here Ahmed is fond of reading books and playing sports. Or maybe you could say here Ahmed likes or loves reading books and playing sports. So now it's time for the practice exercise. So the exercise that you have here is to write a descriptive paragraph in which you describe one of your best friends. So here in this exercise, you will have, of course, to write a descriptive paragraph describing one of your best friends. Maybe your brother, maybe your sister, maybe your classmates, one of your classmates. So let's have a look at how, of course, to write this paragraph. Now, so the first sentence that you need, of course, to talk about here, as I explained, of course, to you earlier. So, for example, you could say here, my friend's name is Ali. He's 29 years old. He is a teacher. He speaks Arabic, French, and English very well. So, as you can see here, so my friend's name, this is, of course, the name of the person that you need, of course, to describe here. Then we've got here also the age. He is 29 years old. Then there, of course, job. And after the job, so we've got here the language they speak. So that's what you need, of course, to do. So it's about, of course, giving information. Then after that, we need, of course, as I have just explained, of course, to you before. So here you need, of course, to talk about the physical aspects. So that's why we need, of course, to get started using this expression. So we could say here, physically, Ali is of medium height, well-built, and young. He has got big brown eyes and short, straight black hair, and he usually wears smart clothes. And after the physical aspects, so we need, of course, to talk about attitude, someone's attitude. So we could say here, my friend's very intelligent and talented. He's so optimistic, reliable, and sociable. So after that, we need, of course, to write something about, of course, their interests. So that's why we could say here, Ali is very interested in learning languages. Now he is learning Spanish at a language center. And of course, after this, we need, of course, to speak about also their hobbies. So that's why we could say here, my best friend likes a lot of things. He's keen on reading books and playing sports. He loves writing short stories too. Ali and I like spending time together. So that's all. So this is, of course, how, of course, to write a descriptive paragraph, talking about, of course, 4 main tips. So given information, talking about, of course, someone's appearance and someone's appearance. So here, talking about, of course, the personality, and of course, appearance. Then after that, we need, of course, to mention interest. Then the last one, you need, of course, to write about their hobbies. I think, of course, that's all for now. Happy writing, and see you soon in the next video. Bye-bye.